family. Welcome back to Dark Woke, your direct link to all things politics, comedy, and culture. I am your host, Janae Future Khan, champ yapper and frequent nuisance in the activist and comedy worlds. Let's get dialed in. But just before we jump, Dark Woke is a self-funded, self-produced show. We're on Patreon/Dark Woke. I am so grateful for all the support and for you just taking the time to listen. Okay, I have missed you very much. I'm reporting live from my bedroom. That's I purposefully, right, put my setup in a friend's back house because I'm in the middle of a move, but not immediately. But the idea was to keep work and living sort of separate. But honestly, this is my favorite thing. I can just roll out of bed and just immediately start working, which is my dream. But if ever you wanted to know how I live or what a semblance of my aesthetic might be, it's exactly what you'd think. Stark and dark. But yeah, I'm in my bedroom, and I got to tell you, we have a lineup today. We're going to focus in on this profile that Media Matters did. They did this in-depth dive on alternative media across America, which obviously means they captured the essence of the Manosphere. And I have, for the most part, shielded you from the weirdest parts, but it's time. Don't worry, I'm going to make it cute and fun to the best of my ability, but you will be on a journey with me. That's all we could say. And speaking of journeys, this is one of my favorite responses to a tweet that went viral. I'm just going to do a couple of quick hits. We love our little quick hits, but somebody was like, I've been laughing at this for like days. Somebody was like, I do not understand the popular leftist turn against space colonization. And it's like, okay, hold on a second. We never wanted that. That was never a thing that we wanted ever. That's just what Octavia Butler wrote about it. But actually, Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents is a far more nuanced take. You've heard me yap about that already. About how Lauren Olamina is actually a dictator and has all the semblances of that. And it's really a challenge on our relationship across the left, our weird relationship, almost schizophrenic relationship to power, right? We don't want to build it. We just want to critique it constantly. But actually, Lauren Olamina is a dictator in the making. And that was the entire point of this work, right? But we somehow missed that part. It's literally in the notes at the end of the book. But my favorite response, my absolute favorite response to this person who said, I do not understand the popular leftist turn against space colonization. I mean, just space colonization. So I'll be like washing the dishes or like walking Sula. And I'm like, space colonization, because how did you get there? How did you get there? Right. But of course, this has to do with, Elon Musk's propaganda. We are literally so far. I mean, I've looked into the tech. I've looked into the data. We are so far from that as a possibility. Like, they're just talking shit. We have paradise here on Earth. Aerospace travel is so much of it because I'm a big fan of like NASA. I like science, and I like new research, but so much of these private entities, right? If you think of Jeff Bezos's company, if you think of Elon Musk's company, it's just another way for them to get very, very fat government contracts. They just want federal funding for it. And of course, as our publicly funded infrastructure gets more and more defunded and eroded, as we see with things like NASA, et cetera, these private companies, they want an absolute monopoly on it. And we talked about this, the bigger the whale, the bigger the mouth, right? The more money these men have accrued, the more the bigger the need to grow that wealth out, which is why Elon Musk is on track towards being the first trillionaire, right? With Jeff Bezos not far. Well, he's kind of far, but relatively speaking, he's not that far behind him. So my absolute favorite response was somebody just posted, a bunch of people actually posted Gil Scott Heron's Whitey on the Moon, which is one of my favorite poems of his. So, Gil Scott Heron was a Black revolutionary and, a Panther, but also a brilliant poet and satirist and also musician. So this is, I'm just going to play it for you. It's one of my favorites. And then we're going to hop into it. Whew, it's going to be a ride. Here is Whitey on the Moon by Gil Scott Heron.
The rat done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon, and her face and arms began to swell, and Whitey's on the moon. I can't pay no doctor bills, but Whitey's on the moon. 10 years from now, I'll be paying still while Whitey's on the moon. You know the man just upped my rent last night? Because Whitey's on the moon. No hot water, no toilets, and no lights, but Whitey's on the moon.
What I love about this is it like he's grounding it in our actual lived experience. And in this poem, obviously, Whitey is meant to capture this like elite subculture, this mythical norm in America that is currently in our administration and currently running this government. And they're all across the manosphere, actually, right? These multi-millionaires that are largely men and largely white men. This is not at all a reflection of men in America. It's not an accurate reflection at all of men in America. It's not even an accurate reflection of white men in America, because they're out here struggling too. So this type of work, right? I don't have hot water. We're in medical debt, right? There's rats. There's no healthcare. All of this is capturing that and how irresponsible it is as a society. And again, I am such a proponent of like science. Like you know what I mean? We need it. But we don't take care of our own folks. And so much of this has to do with the power grab. I mean, even the time when America funded its space exploration, right? When it was more funded than any other time, it was just competing with Russia in the Cold War. It wasn't even sincere. Okay. Anyway, let me keep this going. Sorry, I got so into it.
I wonder why he's up in me. Because Whitey's on the moon? I was already giving him $50 a week, and now Whitey's on the moon. Taxes taking my whole damn check. The junkies make me a nervous wreck. The price of food is going up. And as if all that crap wasn't enough, a rat done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell, and Whitey's on the moon. Was all that money I made last year for Whitey on the moon?
Where are the tax dollars going? That's right.
Come I ain't got no money here. Whitey's on the moon. You know, I just about had my fill of Whitey on the moon. I think I'll send these doctor bills, air mail special, to Whitey on the moon.
Yeah. I mean, he's perfect. I love him so much. He's so perfect to me. That was one of my favorite responses to, this, like, I thought we were all for space exploration. And, this is a reminder that not only has Doge and the Trump administration not saved any money, they've actually, in the administration, they actually spent more than what is precedent for administrations previously. Right? That's what happens when you fire everybody and then figure out you have to rehire them because you don't actually know or care about how to run government. They have no interest in running government. I mean, I was reading, I've been, following different, federal workers, USDA, et cetera, who have been fired and stayed fired, who have been fired and then rehired. One of the stupidest things that I learned that they did was they even removed Adobe Acrobat, right? So now you have federal workers who have to figure out how to combine, and edit documents and files. And then there were a bunch of dummies on, X being like, oh, everybody's so old, or they have no idea how to Google, quote, combine PDFs online free. And I was like, you understand that these are these documents are supposed to be protected, right? Like, this is, if I was some kind of spy, or if I was one of these like one of these folks who are just here to just foment discord and chaos, I would be like, all I would do is I would just make something like free PDF tools dot ZZY, easy to use, and I would get every single top secret government document I ever needed, like just right there. This is why you don't want this man to have your SSN. This is why. Because Russia will have it too. Russia will have it too. And then so will Iran and everywhere else. We're good. We don't actually need that. Okay, now. Time to get into a little bit of stuff. Just a little bit of stuff. There was, as I mentioned, this huge Media Matters data, research and report that essentially captured, right, the alternative media landscape. So that is available online, Media Matters for America. And essentially, it captures what we know to be true. The right dominates the online media ecosystem, seeping into sports, comedy, and other supposedly non-political spaces. I like the fact that empirical data is supporting everything that we already know to be true, right? The what we call red pilling. But what really gets me is 9 out of 10 top online shows are right-leaning. That's a lot. That's actually a lot. And very similar to what I said, there is a profit motive. And so I talked about some of the in our face front door dealings that we're seeing now, right? And I'll give you another example because I think in the episode we talked about there's Andrew Schultz and he's with Logan Paul on WWE, which is now being streamed by Netflix. You had RFK, who's with Sean Hannity, and they're doing a literal interview in like Steak and Shake, right? You got Elon Musk and Donald Trump trying to push Teslas on people. And it like literally just a commercial using mainstream media. All of these had exchanges of millions of dollars. That's what that looks like. One of the podcasts here, Full Send, is a bunch. It started off as a Canadian podcast. It was a bunch of Canadian guys, young guys, right? Their total following of top right-leaning and left-leaning online shows. Of course, again, the top 10 podcasts in America, 9 are right-wing. But like Full Send is an example. So you've got like 4 guys, Canadians, right? Tucker Carlson's there all the time. They have really close relationships with Dana White. And they've had every kind of right-wing person on that you can think of, and they're just interviews, right? Ben Shapiro's on this list. So Full Send has 16.7 million. Ben Shapiro's got 25 million. Joe Rogan's got 39.9 million. Theo Vaughn has 22.3 million. Steven Crowder, who I swear I didn't even know was still out there like that. 12 million. Oops, my face hit the mic. Sorry. If it made a weird sound, just pretend. I just gave you a little kiss. Mwah. Russell Brand, 22.5. And you'll remember that Russell Brand was accused of, sexual assault. There were allegations of it. And that doesn't have to, those allegations don't have to be true. But he made an insane, hard right pivot that very much suggests that there's a lot of truth in it, because that's what you can do in this world, right? So he's at 22.5 million. Tucker Carlson's at 13.9. Candace Owens is at 15 million, right? Jordan B. Peterson, the whiniest of them all, 23 million. And then you have Matt Walsh at, what's Matt Walsh at? I want to say 8.5. It's either 8.5 or 6. It got grainy. At like 6 or 8.5. And Matt Walsh is one of the dumbest people out there. Like, at least I could look at Ben Shapiro, right? Short king to short peasant, and say, he yaps. He yaps well. He's weird and wrong a lot of the time, but he yaps well, right? But Matt Walsh is an absolute idiot. Who else is on this list? Impulsive, that's Logan Paul's show, is 10.2 million. So who are our current players, right? You've got, and of course Dan Bongino, who we know now it has an official position in Trump's administration, and he's at 12.9, right? Whew. So that's some of them. Who do we have? Who are our players right now in this ecosystem? We've got Trevor Noah, who's not really. It's a left leaning show, but he's not really promoting ideas. It's not an ideological show. It's not a propaganda show. All these shows that I've named are largely propagandist. Excluding maybe Impulsive or like Full Send, but like I mentioned, they do. Like Charlie Kirk, who was recently on Gavin Newsom's show, and you can check that episode if you haven't listened to it yet, where I break down that really terrible, I'm using air quotes here, debate, because it was just another platform for Charlie Kirk, but he doesn't actually need one because he's got 18.6 million. Part of why, and also there's a streamer, Asmongold, who's at 9 million, and he doesn't, it's weird because he doesn't actually identify as right wing, even though a lot of his ideas overlap. And then you've got there's Megyn Kelly, that harpy, that vulture. She's on the list. So who do we got, right? So there's Trevor Noah, and again, this is not a propaganda show. It's not an ideological show, but he, it still falls in under the purview. You've got Midas Touch, terrible name, at 6.4 million. A lot of you probably have not even heard of it. The Young Turks at 12 million. They haven't been relevant in a while. And that's not, and they've gone center left, or they've almost gone center right actually. And a major breakpoint happened to be with transness, right? Hassan is there at Hassan Abia at 5.3, and that's just across every, one of his platforms. And then, yeah, it's just, honestly, I can't really point to many more. So I'm like, I'm literally like trying to like zoom in as much as I can. You know what? Why don't I just look at the graphic that's actually online? Oh my God, so much better when it's not, when it's not me just trying to pretend like I know what I'm doing with this. Oh no, it's not better. It's still bad. It's still bad, y'all. But let's just say that they're so small that I can't read it. Oh, and I forgot to mention Aiden Ross at 6.1 million on the right side, and very anti-trans. It's a damning picture. Oh my fucking God, Dr. Phil is up there at 14.2 million, and you remember his about face, and then you learn this is actually a video you can find online. I didn't even know that he was on this list at number like 10, but this is wild to me. Like Dr. Phil literally did that hard right pivot because Kamala Harris like refused to like sit down with him or something like that. But again, there's a massive profit motive. So why don't we zoom out? And I appreciate you just sort of sticking with me while I'm still wrapping my head around this. I've been digesting this all day and doing different research on it and on these shows because we have a job to do. And I've got a plan. I've got a 3 to 6 month plan. I've got a 6 to 12 month plan, and I've got a 12 to 18. And it's in the early stages, but I feel really confident about where this show is headed. I'm not firing on all cylinders yet, but don't worry, it's actually on purpose. But it's going to be a slog. But this is what I want to say. This is what I noticed in doing all the research I've done in the past couple of days, and especially today. It's not even that. It's not that our shows don't do well. They don't exist. Do you get me? They don't exist. And a major reason is for that is because the time. It takes an extraordinary amount of time. Like if you think of Logan Paul, for example, Logan and Jake Paul, they came up on Vine, right? And then have been cultivating YouTube forever, but they largely, like, it was pranks. That's the same thing with Full Send, which is done by the Nelk boys. That's those Canadian boys I was talking about, right? Pranks. And it was just literally bothering people, harassing people, and that's what the internet was all about for the boys. It was that was the nascent stages of the Manosphere. If you look at things like Candace Owens or Ben Shapiro or Matt Walsh, Candace started out obviously with the Daily Wire, but that's bankrolled by millionaires, multi-millionaires and investors, and you step out and they're still bankrolled and they get paid an extraordinary amount of money. Steven Crowder, who many of you have never heard of, right? He's big on YouTube. A really odious individual was offered, right? This is a fact. You can look this up. A few years ago, he was offered $50 million for a 2-year contract with the Daily Wire, right? That's athlete money. So this is a guy most of you have never heard of. That's the kind of money that comes with being a part of this pipeline. So it's just unbelievably well funded. And there are some conclusions that some of the journalists from at Media Matters, some conclusions that they drew that I disagree with. One was, the idea that I want to see if I can actually pull up exactly what he was saying. Oh, here we go. Right. And, I appreciate what he's talking about. His name's Angelo Carusone. What you see here is the clearest illustration of why things are so messed up and why it cannot get any better until this asymmetry is addressed. 100% agree, right? Put simply, right wing has narrative dominance. What I really appreciate, and this is really key. This is like really, really key. And I'm going to play some clips in a second that's really going to help bring this home. But what is so important to note is that this report also captured how frequently mainstream media, so that's CNN, MSNBC, Fox, how much they espouse the ideas identically that come out of the Manosphere, right? So it's not just existing in this niche. Their talking points are far more prolific across the board. They are informing society and culture on every level, right? And I really appreciated that. So I just want to read a couple more of his tweets. So he said, so much of the convo in Democratic circles, which we're going to be talking about, because of course we know that we need our left Joe Rogan. Like this is a far bigger problem than Hassan becoming more, like gaining more followers, which great, right? Like I like that we have a giant Turkish man on our side. I like that he's crass. I like that I like when people annoy him. He says, suck my dick. I'm like, it's good to have some non-PC-ness on our side, and it's human. And one of the things I love about this podcast is that I get to be a little more human too, except not too human because I love America so much. I really do. It's my favorite place. I mean, there are things that are really cool, but I love America. I am pro-America. Okay, anyway. So, he said, so he goes on to say, so much of the conversation in Democratic circles and in parts of political media have been about messaging. Wrong. Even if Dems had the perfect message, it wouldn't get anywhere. This isn't a messaging problem. It's a media crisis. And that is actually exactly it. I'm actually going to take a point pivot here because hopefully you're not getting too tired of my voice. I know usually but I want to play something for you. From here on in, you're going to get so annoyed, but you're going to get annoyed with me. So you won't be alone. I'm going to play for you a clip of Andrew Tate. And this is a more extreme version of what is currently in the Manosphere. Because it's Andrew Tate. And then I'm going to play something that was very much heavily debated and on the internet over the weekend. But here's this. Just to give you a sense of what we're talking about here. So I just want you to hear how women are being discussed, because I named a lot of men, right? I named a lot of men. And of course, we also have Candace Owens and Megyn Kelly. One thing everybody agrees on is they're weirdly very anti-trans, anti-black. You know, Candace is far more nuanced. She's actually very talented. She's really good at what she does. And I think she'd be willing to sit down with just about anybody if they generated enough, you know, whatever. I don't know that her mind would necessarily change, but the problem is then you got the anti-Semitism stuff. And that is, it's a lot. But let me just play this Andrew Tate clip. Brace yourselves.
I don't want my daughters getting fucking plowed.
And for the record, this is how they all talk. This is how they talk. This is the norm. Right? So men are just getting yelled at by other men a lot of time. And remember this. This is really important, though, right before I play this. And I want you to remember this throughout. The vast majority of men in the world, in America, aren't sitting here listening to this. They're just normal guys. They're fucking. They're getting, you know, they're in relationships. They're going through the same shit that we are. And even still, some of the dudes who sit here and listen to this stuff are also very normal. And I'm not saying this as in not all men. I'm saying this because we are getting into this weird place where we're hurting our own feelings by sort of taking things off the table through assumption. Like, for example, when we say, you know, the Dems are fuck the Dems. And it's like, that actually doesn't help us. That doesn't help us because it erases the people who are trying to do incredible work. And it also, like, what does that do to our psyche? What does it do to our bodies? When we say fuck the Dems, right? When they're actually our only way out. There is no alternative party in America. This is not Germany. This is not Canada with beautiful Jagmeet Singh, right? Where you can have like a third and fourth party. The Electoral College, right? And these super PACs and these major lobby groups, the money, the concentration of money here makes it virtually impossible right now to have a robust third party. I think it's possible at some point. Get rid of the filibuster, even though, you know, it can be worked in our favor. It should be got rid of entirely. But right now, it you know, fuck you, Chuck Schumer, you little bitch. Somebody, an article in Salon said that he brought a white flag to a gunfight. Yeah, he's a little bitch for that, for sure. You know, and that was a time when the filibuster could have been worked in our favor. But generally speaking, it should absolutely be abolished under a democratic government. And so should the Electoral College. But anyway, I'll start it from the beginning because I'm interrupting Andrew Tate. Maybe I've been delaying the inevitable.
I don't want my daughters getting plowed by dudes they're not going to be with for the rest of their life. I want to meet one man and begrudgingly accept that he's going to be my daughter, and I want him to be fearful enough of me to respect me, and I want them to be together forever. So that means I get to choose who the it is, and my daughter's going to accept it. She's going to say, Dad picked him, and I know that they will be happier. She'll end up pregnant at 21 like she's supposed to be, instead of walking around at 30.
I know some of you are like, whoa, and yep.
Doing nothing with her life. If they have any kind of issues in their relationship, I'll understand both points of view, the masculine point of view for the man I respect and I've chosen, and her point of view from the feminine as my daughter. And I guarantee they will have a long, happy life, much more than if I leave her to her own devices to go to spring break and run around Tulum to find herself. Because all she ends up finding is STDs every time. So no, I don't think that young women should be making their own choices about who their lifelong partners are. And that's when a woman's at her maximum sexual value. I don't want my...
And that's when a woman is at her maximum sexual value at 21. So this is the thing that always confuses me. I'm like, you could, like, just for men in general, I'm just like, you could have a best friend. Do you know what like, you could, your partner could literally be your best friend. And if this way of being was actually benefiting men, it'd be harder for me to contest it, but I'm like, none of you are happy. Like, it's not like you've come out happy or you're not happy, right? So if something's not serving you, we should look into why. But why does this matter, right? There was a point in time when Andrew Tate was the most Googled man on the internet. And he was extreme. He is now more the standard than the deviation, right? He's more than the aberration, right? there's an article on Slate right now. And I like how it's written. It's written really well. It says he used to make videos about NYC real estate. Then he became radicalized by the right. Right? Cass Jordan made a name for himself showing off New York apartments. Now his YouTube channel is all crime and conspiracy. What happened? Money. So not only is there a profit motive at the top, right, where these front door deals and back end deals are happening at all times, but the more sensational you are online, right, the more right wing you are, the algorithm actually, it's incredibly profitable, right? The more that you're based in truth or facts or nuance, the more your work gets suppressed, right? Which is what we will be working against and what we are working against. So, you know, sorry, I'm thinking, I'm choosing points of the article. Okay. So he was a realtor and he would just post things like neighborhood gems, coffee shops, restaurants. You know, he'd walk you through the apartments or the homes that he was, you know, trying to sell. And it went from very innocuous videos, right? From living in a tiny box apartment on an NYC roof, or see a $2,900 Brooklyn penthouse with roof deck and a balcony. Now, like it's pretty wild. Now he's got videos that's like, oh gosh, you know, Venezuelan gang invades Manhattan as NYC collapses. NYC is now so dangerous, nobody can live here. NYC installs cameras, attacks Trump supporters. Like, that's what it's like now. And he has seen his follower count double. He saw his follower count double over in less than a year. He's now, you know, he's got brand deals, sponsorship, and this is what Claire Wardle, is associate professor at Cornell University and a leading expert on misinformation and user-generated content. She said, fundamentally, this is all about algorithm. In many ways, these videos emulated Trump's remarks, Fox News or One America News. But this is not Trump or the Murdochs, but just a dude who may have figured out a way to maybe make a ton of money. Jordan did not respond to Slate for comment, right? So he's landed, in just the recent months, he's landed multiple brand partnerships. One was from a large personal injury law firm to a local moving company, right? His channel's ballooned. He's at like 1.2 million subscribers now. So not only are we not there, right? A lot of these guys were able to just stream endlessly because they had money to do so. That when they were younger, they were living at home, their parents were paying their bills, and they could just sit online for hours a day, which is not generally the case for those on the left. You have to take financial loss, like, and this isn't like a woe is me thing. I've got a plan. I feel very confident about it, and you know, I'm very Count of Monte Cristo in how I approach things, and it is a challenge. I don't want to say that it isn't, but you know, I am taking financial loss every month that I do this show because I'm not working on other things. But I can do that. You know, I have to be smart and I have to be whatever. And one day, you know, we'll talk about this story and its entirely. But it has to come at a sacrifice. There's no safety net for me, right? And so I'm able to, you know, just be very strategic or whatever. But this is, you know, I'm not funded. You have to be able to take financial loss for you know, an unset amount of time in order to do this work. So Hassan, for example, right, has done an incredible job sitting on Twitch for 8 hours a day for the last, you know, 6+ years. But think about what you would need to from 11 a.m. you know, PST to 7 or 8 p.m. Think about how impossible that would be for you to do. Just think about that, right? So, and then we're also not getting bankrolled, and he wasn't getting bankrolled by anybody across the left. We don't have those. And for a lot of these folks who want to be content creators, right? They don't have lefty politics. They just want to make fucking money. And honestly, the red pilling, it speaks to some of their more base instincts and interests. Now that leads us to the other side of this content. So what was it that happened, right? So, you know, I hope you're with me and you're getting this because I'm still processing this, and I promise, you know, that you know, the episodes throughout the week will just be a little bit more like what we're used to. I don't know if this is or isn't. It's so weird because I just end up like talking to myself because it's not live. But I still feel like such a community, and anyway, I'll have some updates towards the end of the show. But this is like this guy, Cass Jordan, who I just mentioned, is just relentlessly fear mongering, and just full of hyperbolic, racially charged, QAnon coded language. The plandemic. And, we all know that the COVID was a huge, huge radicalization point for a lot of folks. We all came out more antisocial. And there's data that actually helps support that as well. I saw something, I want to actually read it because I thought it was like staggering. Like not like completely unprecedented or unexpected, but it was a graph that basically was like, oh, here it is. Time socializing with others, right? At the start of the pandemic, we were doing between 40 and 35 minutes a day. Hold on, what's it a day? Source, American Time Use Survey. Note, average daily time spent. Yeah, socializing with others. So it was about, at the start of the pandemic, we were between 35 and 40 minutes a day. Now, well, it's plummeted. It's plummeted. And this is what somebody said, but we weren't hosting more parties. We were just more alone. And I think that's the case for a lot of us. I think that's the case for a lot of us. And so you have people who are coming out more antisocial for a lot of these guys who are very unhappy. Red pilling gives you that sort of, that a place to put your anger and your rage. And so the problem with misinformation and disinformation is it doesn't matter. Like any guy that I meet, largely from the Manosphere, they're not going to be weird with me. I see them in the comedy clubs constantly, right? They're not going to be weird. They're not psychos, a lot of them. But what's happening is that our brains operate at a very different frequency subconsciously than we do. There are these belief systems that are concretizing, and it's not great. So, what do I want to play for you? I'm going to play a couple of clips, okay? And we're going to go through this together. The first one's totally fine. So what started the conversation? And what is not reflected in this graph, right? Because I'm just like, we think the Manosphere, you think hyper right, whatever. But a lot of black men are also in the Manosphere, and they don't participate in the same way. So like the Breakfast Club is one of the shows that technically is on our side, right alongside like the Young Turks or Midas or whatever at 11.4 million. Now that has Charlemagne the God on it. And, as you know, I really get frustrated with how beta he is when he's on Andrew Schultz's show. I'm used to a very different Charlemagne on the Breakfast Club. So there's this black manosphere media stream that also exists that tends to be a little bit more nuanced. But I want to show you what that looks like. Wait. Oh, my screen went dark. I don't know if... Okay, good. I'm still recording. Okay. Here, let me just play this for you. So here is Anthony Mackie, our current Captain America, talking about how he's raising his sons.
I keep my boys humble. Like, my boys have never had a pair of Jordans. My boys don't do all that internet fly shit. I'm like your kids. And no, I don't give a... I could be the biggest star in the world. Do not let me catch you being stupid. Mm-hmm. Do not. And my oldest gets it. My 15-year-old, he tells the other ones, he's like, yo, don't make dad mad. Because once you get one that's right, he gonna straighten the other ones out. Mm-hmm. So it's just that thing of, in the past 20 years, we've been living through the death of the American male.
That right there is the line that I want to really contest. What he goes on to describe is not that. But remember I said we have to be more mindful of the language we use, because they're actually red herrings, and they're talking points from the Manosphere, from the hyper right. Not this version, right? Not with all these pretty black men or whatever, but like the weirdos, right? like the weirdos. This is a very common belief across all men in America. And it's like, I walk around every day and I see men. Like, they're everywhere. And they look like men and they act like men to me, you know, but they're normal. But this is a very, very prevalent belief, and to mock it, I think, is part of the problem. Why did they believe it? Even if something is just parroted over and over again, it starts to take on a truth of its own, because listen to that sentence and think about how it sucked the air out of the room, and it really did in that moment. But then what he describes is very different.
They have literally killed masculinity in our homes and our communities.
They have killed masculinity in our homes and our communities. The other thing to note is, who is the they in this instance, right? Be specific. So when we say fuck the Dems, for example, it might feel like I'm making a weird comparison, but we're not. I'm trying to demonstrate that we're not exempt from this. When we say fuck the Dems, be specific. Fuck Chuck Schumer. Fuck Hakeem Jeffries. Like, be specific. If we are not specific, then we are contributing to these really weird cliches, to be quite honest with you, right? They have killed masculinity in our communities. They have killed masculinity in our communities, right?
For one reason or another. But I raised my boys to be.
None of those men asked who they was. Who is that? It's not the coyote or the sock, they, them, that I can't stand, right? We don't know, but that becomes sensationalized. I'm going to add nuance to it because I actually listened to this entire interview. And this is not a, F Anthony Mackie. The entire interview is far more nuanced. But we have to be these slogans. They take on an entire life of their own.
Be young men, and however you feel about that, you feel about that. Right. But my boys will always be respectful. They will always say yes sir, yes ma'am, no sir, no ma'am. They will always say thank you. They will always open the door for a lady. They will always make sure that their mother is taken care and provided for. They will always be men, and that's.
All right, that's also a little bit intense. It's it's like it sounds to me like you're just raising very respectful young men, but that they will always be men. It's very intense. It's very, very, very intense. Very red pill coded, right? Again, I'm going to play something afterwards that will remind you that Anthony Mackie is a human being, and he's very nuanced, because I listened to the entire interview. But I'm going to tee this up, because what I'm going to play after is going to be, it's important that we hear it, but it's yeah.
It's always, since they were 2 years old. Every time I left for a job, I tell my 15-year-old, "You the man of the house."
Okay, so first of all, I just want to say, because remember he said in the beginning, he's like, I don't buy my kids Jordans. I'm like, if he's the man of the house, get him some Jordans. You know what I mean? Like, if he's responsible for the younger siblings and he's fucking locking the doors and shit and he's gonna protect his mom, get the boys some Jordans. God damn it.
You make sure these doors are locked every night. This alarm is on. You text me or you call me every night before you go to bed and you wake up.
I love that.
Because we're men.
Yes, we are. We are men. Let's get down to business.
If I'm not there to protect, he got to be there to protect. Because you can have all the money in the world, climb through the window. That money means nothing. Right. You can have.
Did they send me daughters when I asked for sons? Okay, sorry. You're unsuited for. Okay,
all the celebrity in the world. You jump through the door. That celebrity means nothing. Yeah. So you got to have a little guard in there, And so for me, it's all.
You're unsuited for the ways of war. So pack up, go home, you're through. Somehow I'll make a man out of you. Okay.
Always that idea of American masculinity is very different.
Hold up.
Okay. So this obviously got a lot of heat. And I would 100% challenge the language that was used in this. I would 100% challenge it. That being said, there's an additional clip, right? If you're listening, where Anthony Mackie, I don't want to get into it too much, but I'm going to play it really briefly, because he's talking about how he confronted his own homophobia, right? But that's the thing. You have to remember that our politics are not coherent. They're not cohesive. We're weird. And we're not reading enough and all this stuff. My skin felt really dry. I had to I'm getting used to sort of like being like recording here. Yeah, but we're not coherent. Our politics are not as coherent as they ought to be. And so it would be hard, I think, for somebody who isn't like reading critical, not critical, queer theory, for example, to see the dissonance between, they're always going to be men. I'm raising men. They killed masculinity in America, and then hearing this.
Growing up in the South in the 90s and 80s, you grow up homophobic, sexist, and racist.
You see, and so a lot of people ran on this, fuck Anthony Mackie and this and that. And again, I think we have to be able to complicate or problematize the certain, like that language that was used. But again, we do the same things. Fuck the Dems, da 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 da. And it's like, be specific. If he says they are killing masculinity in America, be specific, because he just said something, and I'm going to replay it again, that's very important. In the 90s and 80s, right? In the 90s and 80s.
You grow up
homophobic,
sexist, and racist.
That's
we talking about the 80s and the 90s. That's just a fact. You know what I mean? So when I got to school, my roommate was gay. Like, I didn't know how to deal with that. Like, my brother's gay. I didn't know how to deal with that.
This here is so incredibly vulnerable. It's so moving. It's so real. It's so honest. This is also part of the Manosphere, but this part is often missed. This part is not prioritized. And this is what I mean when I say there are extremes even within it that we have to be really mindful of. This is not a conversation that you would typically hear, and you certainly wouldn't get this from mainstream media.
So being a man, I use my art to better myself. I played Perry so that I could understand my brother better, so I could understand my friends better. Going to art school, a bunch of my friends were gay. You know what I mean? Like,
I would have loved it if he said faggots there. No, he's not allowed. I know he's not allowed. A bunch of my friends were faggots.
When I was a kid, we had a record label. We had the first gay rapper. Nobody gave. You make good music. Nobody care.
Okay. So, do we want to hear the rest? What else did he say?
Big Frida is famous.
Okay, that's what I was waiting for. I was like, that he mentions Big Frida somewhere. Okay. So, this is what and that's the part that's often missed, right? So, this is important, but the language that he used, right, and the interview in general incited a lot of debate and a lot of discourse, and of course there was people were like, "Did you even read the thing?" But one thing that's missed in the Manosphere, and it does frustrate me, right? Because as I mentioned, and it's a different issue. We'll get there, which is that we're not even there. Like we're not there. It's not. I thought we just, we were too anemic, or like we weren't fighting, but no, we're just not there. We're not even in the fucking ring, right? But a regular dynamic within the Manosphere is several men and one woman. Or if it's the really gross part of the Manosphere, it's like two men who run the podcast, but they bring in like an endless trail of women who, for whatever reason, come on the show. They do not get paid for it. And they are just subjected to the worst kinds of abuse for hours. They don't know how to debate. And they couldn't anyway, because it's just a man yelling at you, calling you a fucking whore the entire time. I do not know why women continue to go on these shows half the time. Fresh and Fit is a great example of that. He hates black women. He hates women. He hates Jewish people. He hates trans people. I would love it if Candace Owens did not associate. He's way further right than she is, and way less talented. The guys on Fresh and Fit. Anyway, so that's an extreme. But what is more often the case in the less extreme on the part of the Manosphere, and of course all of this is some version of red pilling, is you have these dynamics where it's like 3 guys, 4 guys, 1 woman, or whatever. And she has the impossible task. She's either the person who laughs, that's her contribution, or she's put in a position like this. Okay, so I'm going to be in this with you. This is going to piss you the fuck off. I just need you to know this. But I also want you to be in this because you have been here before. We all have been here before. So this is on Joe Budden's podcast, and they're talking about, this Anthony Mackie interview. And Melissa Ford she's great, and she's, pretty much the only woman. She is the only woman, on the show that is regular, in a lead role. And it's really rough. But this is standard. What these guys believe is very normal. So they're referencing, to be clear, the Anthony Mackie interview, and they're referencing this whole idea of why women would choose a bear rather, that whole, like, would you rather be alone with a bear, or would you rather be alone with, with a man? And a lot of women choose the bear. And of course, men were like, misandry is real. I'm like, yeah, so was globalization, right? That one's actually real. That's why men can't be men, according to your own patriarchal standards, right? They sold you out. But that's a whole nother conversation. I'm going to play this now. So you have the context. Here we go. And yes, it's going to be more men yelling. Here we go. This is Joe Budden, and rapper turned podcaster, very, very popular. Two guys that don't matter but yap endlessly, and Melissa Ford.
I hear you. I'm telling you, as a man with a daughter,
we got that part.
But you can't.
We're talking about just men.
I know you yelling, but
we're just talking about men.
I understand.
We're not talking about your daughter, your mom, your sister. We got that part. This conversation started and should end with men telling you about men and the erasure of men.
Yeah.
So keep in mind how emotional he is, right? Joe Budden is extremely emotional. That you will notice a double standard very soon.
Yes.
You don't need to speak to somebody with a daughter to see how a man feels. Speak to a fucking man.
Okay. Because nobody does that enough. Yes, that's that's the problem, is that nobody, and of course we know that women could never speak on, their experiences of, dealing with men, because we got to get the men's point of view. We need more. And, I fucking love men so fucking much. Like, I just enjoy their company. I'm a huge fan of casual violence. I'm not being sarcastic. I really am. I'm a fighter. I'm a boxer and everything else. And, they're a good time, But I always tell men when they're like, women aren't fun. I'm like, that's because if you are one of the guys that think that women aren't fun, it's because the fun stops when you walk into the room. Bitches be having mad fun when the vibe is right. Anyway, I can't, and I'm not going to keep interrupting this. I'm trying to bring levity, but it's just we just gotta get through it.
Go ahead,
okay, let her get that shit off.
No,
please.
No, he
please
just shut
continue.
down.
Continue.
He completely shut down
No,
everything that I put. No, because I can't respond to the Doge thing. I can't respond to the bear thing.
Respond.
I can't because it all factors in.
Okay, so she says the Doge thing, the bear thing, it factors in. So she's actually talking about everything that we've been talking about. She's like, there is a ecosystem that is a problem. But anyway.
It does. My fucking argument, when you keep bringing up this bear shit, it's fucking pissing me off because you are being willfully fucking obtuse. All right, stay fucking there. You two, you have daughters. Mm-hmm. What is it that you are teaching your daughters in terms of when they go out into the world, how to conduct themselves? Only in terms of their sense of personal safety.
Now, remember, the point of this and why I played Andrew Tate, Anthony Mackie, whatever, is you're getting a glimpse into what the discourse is in the Manosphere from very different entry points and levels. I want you to really hear how women are talked about. That's the key thing right here, and how women are spoken to.
Who do they need to keep themselves safe from? Who? And don't just answer the question.
People. Yeah, I was going to say the world.
Okay.
Fuck you. This, when I was listening to this shit pissed me off. She goes, who, when you say your daughters need to be protected, who are you saying you need to protect your daughters from? People. This is bullshit. That's actually bullshit, right? And again, I will never give credence to I really didn't like Me Too in the setup of, all masculinity is inherently violent. No, it isn't. Patriarchy and misogyny fucking suck, and boys and girls are abused at equal levels. It should be about gendered violence, not violent genders. That is not a real fucking thing. But to say that you are you are protecting your daughters against people, that's highly, highly disingenuous.
Okay.
The world.
Can you be a little bit more specific?
People, like you said, I get where you're trying to go with that.
This is
I'm not
bullshit.
sitting there, I'm not at that point yet, but it's not, hey, look out for men, look out for boys. No,
I can answer
look
that.
out for people.
Okay.
People are
and
fucked
I'm
up out here
and I'm
today.
just asking you two specifically.
Wait, hold on. I have a 15-year-old
Yeah,
daughter.
he can answer better than I
have a
can.
15-year-old daughter. I tell her to be on the lookout for people, jealous girls, but I also tell her to be
Fair.
on the lookout for older men that's trying to prey on younger girls, offering rides and stuff like that. Is
Okay.
that where you're getting at? I tell her that, but that's what you learn in growing up, and that's that some men do that.
No, and that is fair. And
Okay.
that is fucking accurate. I can tell you stories of when I was 11 and 12. No, fuck that. 8.
Just so we're all clear, it doesn't get detailed, but sexualized violence is brought up, and it is important that it is brought up, and it's very important that it's brought up in these spaces. Bear witness to how it's treated, the reality of it in the Manosphere, and again in a more grounded, centered Manosphere that is not Andrew Tate, not the most exaggerative, crazy version.
We had a handyman that used to come to the house. And one day my father was just like, my parents worked. And my dad was literally like, he's coming to the house, just give him the money for the work that he did, blah, blah, blah. He came to the house. I was there alone. He was drunk. And he tried to do some shit to me. It was fucking terrifying because I'm in my own fucking house. And this is somebody that my parents fucking trusted. And he came there drunk and it was really fucking bad. That is just one experience. There's so many more that I can talk about that happened before the age of fucking 16 years old. The reality is that you can be in the safest environment and still there will be a situation that unfolds that where you need to teach your daughters to be careful of predatory boys and men.
You see how we try to assert people again? That's so fucking gross. Like 3 out of 4 women. 3 out of 4, and I wouldn't even trust the data on this, right? But because likely it's 4, but 3 out of 4 women have experienced some version of sexualized violence, sexual harassment. Are men inherently perpetrators? No, but to suggest that that happens less than that is just factually untrue. These guys are being deliberately obtuse, as she mentioned.
And I'm not talking about people.
I know.
Because
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question?
Just wait 1 second. Anything can fucking happen.
That story about the handyman, was your dad there for that?
No, he wasn't. He was at work. It was during the day. It was like fucking noon or something like that.
Mel,
Okay, now, so hold on.
There
No,
are systematic efforts that are out there to discredit and silence the black man.
Did you hear that? So she's talking about what happened to her, and he goes, there are systematic efforts to silence and discredit the black man. Okay.
I'm not talking.
But you have to acknowledge that too,
I'm not.
Mel, wait. Listen, you you should acknowledge the fact that there is a movement to discredit the black man, to discredit men.
The straight black man.
The straight.
My fucking brain is breaking. Yeah, you guys are describing fucking racism. So that exceptionalism, that desire to be the most oppressed person, this is something that black men and white women share. This is not a qualification. This is just factually true. The vast majority, I'm not going to bring empirical data into it. I can only tell you that sometimes they parrot talking points that are very, very similar. And there are numerous articles and empirical data out there that supports it. It's still not an accurate reflection of the vast majority of white women or the vast majority of white men. But The problem is when you experience both the noxious, reality of some kinds of systemic favor and then simultaneous oppression, it creates this very aggrieved entitlement, right? But and then we contribute to it. We are all contributing to it. I literally read a tweet from a white trans woman, and I told you I've had my problems with like the trans community because it's not trans women who are it's white LGBTQ things, and these were the folks who were like, cancel Dave Chappelle, and I'm like, for fucking what? He didn't do anything. Like, he said something that we should have been talking about. But this is a tweet that a very popular white trans woman made, a well-known one of the loudest ones. I've never heard a white trans woman talk about anything other than being white trans ever. On the internet. There is no other, this is what she said in 2025 in today's America. There is no other minority group in America exposed to this level of mechanized hatred today, talking about as trans women, and I'm tired of being told I should shut up about it. It's like racism does not exist. It's like racism does not exist in the imagine. So you have, here are these black men saying it, and it's very easy to say, what? How could they look at them? But here's a white trans woman saying, no other population in the history of America or in America today, the entire foundation of this country, the entire wealth of this country, the entire history of this country, it's the anti-DEI, the attacks against black women around CRT and getting them removed out of positions of power. This is to say that in today's America, when the average age, for example, of black trans women and trans women of color is 34 years old, is unbelievable to me. So we can point the finger at these guys and be like, look at them, but no, we all do this. We all want to be terminally uniquely oppressed. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. All of our lives are shit, is what I'm saying. And I don't understand what, and it's like, on a human level, I get it. Our needs are not being met. And that's the place that I want to approach this from, is that nobody's needs are being met. And when your needs aren't being met and you aren't feeling seen in the things that you experience on a day-to-day, you do develop a narrative. But the only way to ameliorate that aloneness, right, is to connect to the struggles of others, is to learn about the struggles of others, is to remove yourself from your main character syndrome. But that's very difficult to do in a place like America. But I want to be clear that this statement like this from this white trans woman, there is no other minority group in America exposed to this level of mechanized hatred today. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? There are black people, Muslims, like it's unbelievable to me that could even be said. And that is why Dave Chappelle got up on a stage in front of millions of people and said, we, as in he was talking about black people, but of course he is very, like these black men, he's very much invested in his own experience as a black man. And again, aggrieved entitlement. And foundational human needs not being met, right? But that is why he was like, if you actually listened to his comedy, you listened to his material, he was like, we did this shit for y'all. We have been fighting for civil rights since they brought us here on these ships, right? Then along comes some gays and some lesbians and then a couple of T's, and you all have seen more success and faster assimilation than black people ever have. That is actually fundamentally fucking true. LGBT organizations are significantly better funded and more consistently so, right? Now, does that mean that trans people, and including white trans people, are receiving the same amount of funding, say, than, gay-centric? Of course not. But that's why he's upset, and it's because of shit like this, but we all fucking do it. Now I'm going to go back to this hot fucking mess. I needed to take a breath, too, because that shit got me hot. Like, she literally just brought up something so personal. And they don't even acknowledge it. They don't even acknowledge it. It's unbelievable to me. I'm like, is she even your friend?
Not just black men, the straight black
Online,
men.
they're showing that women.
And of course, the straight black man, right? Oh yes, only the straight black man. Only the straight. Let's get a straight black pride. That's what we need right now. Yeah, let's have you guys can have a flag too if that's what you fucking want. Jesus Christ.
Men have all this power and women are in control of the home and the black men are not here to take care of their
Legislation says
children.
different.
Legislation with?
Legislation that's being passed, Roe v. Wade being overturned, the anti-abortion laws. There is literally...
We're talking about social media that's being fed to our children.
Okay.
And now if you go on here, there's always something to discredit the black man.
This is a feeling, not a fact. Listen, do black men in America have it impossibly hard? Yes. Despite the fact that the movements that I've been in have been, a lot of women led, whatever. We were fighting primarily for black men. I love fucking black. I want to be one so bad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but this is pretty wild. This is a pretty wild take. These are feelings, not facts. Like, there isn't a conspiracy against black men. There's a conspiracy against people. Regular people. There's a conspiracy against black people. There's a conspiracy against fucking Muslims. There's a conspiracy against women. And if you keep trying to suggest that your conspiracy or the thing that's against you is somehow significantly different, you are very confused, and you will be alienated and alone. And it makes me sad because I don't doubt that this comes from a very real emotional place, and I know what that feels like. And these guys just need a little more attention, but they also need to read. Like, fucking read something. Read an article. Read a book. You clearly don't.
Mm-hmm. You know that and I know that. So that's what the point we're getting at is that there's something that's going on. Not taking away that there's not, we know that there's predators out there. We know that there's men out there that take advantage. But there's also a lot of great men out there that take care of their family, that provide for their children, that protect the home. And that's not being highlighted anymore.
In no way, shape, or form am I fucking denying that at all.
They're talking about two separate things, right? People have been blaming black people, black women for single family homes, saying black men are deadbeat fathers. Statistically speaking, black men are more involved in the rearing of their children than any other demographic of man. Some of you probably did not know that. That is literally a fact. Look it up, right? And it doesn't get talked about enough. But that's not what she's talking about. And there seems to be an inability to even hear her as an equal contributor in the dialogue. And the truth is, they want acknowledgement from her, and it has to be mutual.
I'll highlight it as much as possible.
You don't when you say I'd rather be around a bear.
Oh my God. Literally.
You don't though when you say that.
Stop. Because the fucking bear is literally just a fucking extreme metaphor for the high incidence rate of fucking sexual assault against women and girls. That's it. It is a fucking metaphor. Get over it, okay?
Mel.
That has nothing to do with the erasure of the concept of the straight fucking man. It has nothing to do with it. It has to do with sexual assault.
Melissa
That is
Ford.
it. That is it. That is all. That is it. That is all.
But what does
Hold
that
up,
teach you?
please let me get this
Go ahead,
1v1 with her, please. And we don't have to yell and get hostile here.
Okay, I'm just gonna end it like that right there. Do you remember when I started this clip with him yelling and screaming? This is why there's the part where the time and the money, that it takes to just be able to just sit here and fucking live online and, but it's also the unrelenting attack, abuse, gaslighting, minimization that happens when you are not a man. And the funny thing is that those things also happen to men on these shows. A lot of these shows, there's one guy who's kind of the guy. He's talking and he's and they shit on the other guys. Andrew Schultz, they're all just beta cucks for Andrew Schultz. Joe Budden has he's the cock of the walk on his show, but it's a little more balanced. Most of these shows don't have women on them at all. It's just men. It's a very hostile world, and you have to have a certain level. You have to have a certain stamina and a certain stomach for it. But it's, because you like they don't give a fuck. She's talking about sexualized violence, and So there is really one side of the story, and it's just the same side that's being recycled over and over and over and over again. And let's just say that I'm scheming, right? Oh shit! Look at the time, Jesus. And we're gonna get there. You know what? I'm just gonna hit the question of the day, but because I'll pick this back up tomorrow. But I really appreciate you going through this episode with me, because I'm trying to unpack what we do with what we know, right? And I've got some schemes. I've got some real fucking schemes, and we we all know, like, it's it takes a while to get a lot of these things off the ground, but I want to make sure that before I add something else, the other things are working. But this is a great opportunity, leading into right before I hit the question of the day, to say, like, it is pretty much just me. KR has been, really generous with their time by just helping me, cut clips, and that's kind of what they've done. But they can no longer do that because the demands of life and just the changing world. So thank you, KR, for being help. And I am. Well, I guess I can tell you this. Like, I'm selling my house so that I can invest in the show at scale, and that's triumphant for me. That should tell you how clear I am about and dedicated to this. I am, and it's a whole process, and it's going to be long-winded and difficult and challenging and everything else. But there's a lot that I know. I know that this is the right thing. And I know, and I believe in this, and I believe that we deserve our representation too. I still need, we're not going to find billionaires, we're not going to find billionaires, but I need staff. I need help. And I want to be able to pay people for that work. And things will change when that happens. And a few of you have reached out, and I can now reach back out, and I really do appreciate it, because it's been a challenge. It's been a challenge, but it's good trouble. It's good trouble. It's good work. And there's a couple of the things I'm doing, collaborating with other trans folks, because having recognized that we're not even in the fucking ring, and it's not even just trans folks, it's just us in general, like proper lefties, who can and who want to sort of be in this space, because as I've demonstrated, I think it's a really, really difficult space to be in. So I feel really good about where we're headed. It's going to be a long fucking journey, but I can't tell you how worthwhile it's going to be, and how worthwhile it already is for me to be here with you all. So, this will probably be one of those episodes that, like, I'll look back on and delete. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, I overshared, but it is 2:30 in the morning. So I think that's why I overshared. I immediately regret that. I don't like, it's not, I do struggle with vulnerability, but I just don't want any of you to feel badly. This is a triumphant story. I believe in this enough that I want to invest in it. And I want to be invested in, and I want to give back to the community that gives me everything. It gives me a reason to wake up in the morning. And I believe that we deserve our head in the ring. I believe that we deserve our fighters. But that requires making some sacrifices and taking some risks. And I don't regret that for a moment, but I had to, look at it and be like, okay, I don't have the capital for this, so I'm going to figure out how to do it. And we're on this journey together. And, this is a reminder to you that you're fucking brilliant. They're terrified. They are, as in the right, this administration, everything else, they're fucking terrified of the things that are in your brain, the body that you walk around in, of the way of the art that you make and the things that you write. That is why they are literally gutting every single piece of infrastructure that we have. That's why we're not being funded. The Democrats are astronomically well funded, right? Astronomically well funded, not the reps, but the Dems in general. And we don't have propagandists. They do not sink money into their shit. The right wing, multimillionaires, they understand the utility of propaganda and the need for it, and we don't. So we're ahead of the curve, but never stop making and never stop trying and never stop taking risks. This is your life, right? And I firmly believe, and I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. I firmly believe that our best days, our deepest laughs, our funnest nights are still in front of us. They're still ahead of us because that's a choice that we get to make. And this administration wins when it kills our sense of possibility and when it kills our sense of joy, when it kills our sense of purpose. I am right here with you in purpose and in love. Let me just play this question right quick. I'll make it so fast.
Hi, this is Laretha. I am from Compton, California, and I have a question. I just wanted to ask, what's something about yourself that many people don't know about?
Well, I guess the house thing satisfies that. I might just play this question again and tomorrow and answer it differently. I really don't like people knowing things about me. But yeah, we've got our best years in front of us, and there's some emails I need to circle back to. Everything will be smoother once I can get a producer, whose job it will be exclusively to wrangle people. There's going to be a steady cacophony of people coming in onto the show soon. I haven't forgotten about our panel and everything else, but we are going to break into this information economy, and we're going to come out fucking swinging, elbows and all. I'm sending a lot of love out to you all. I miss you very much. I'm looking forward to endless yapping deep into the night with each and every one of you. So, I want to hit the outro music, and oh my God, I wish I could just delete that part about the house. Just forget it. Just forget it. All right. I just want to say thank you so much for listening to Dark Woke. It means the world to me. The show really is a labor of love. We got new episodes dropping all the time. We're available everywhere podcasts are. Don't forget that Dark Woke is self-funded. If you love the show, please feel free to support it as best you can. Don't forget, I want to hear from you. Drop your questions to darkwokejfk@gmail.com. I love you guys so much. Shout out to you, the listeners that make it all possible. Love you.